Welcome to the Lyfe Podcast.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of the Lyfe Network. I am the precinct reporter's very own, the Lake Elsinore Special Daniel Carter. And today, I have the founder of the Lyfe Network with me, Mr. C.J. Olton Jr. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Man, long time coming.
Long time coming.
Absolutely, man. Representing Elsinore way back, yeah?
Yeah, no doubt. You're originally from Orange County, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, tell us about your time in Orange County.
Yeah, man. So Orange County, I was born in LA originally. This is like the early 90s.
Yeah.
So, my mother being born and raised from South Central, my father being from Kingston, Jamaica, he had migrated to South Central Los Angeles. So if you know anything about like the early 90s in South Central,
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
it was a hectic time. So,
Yes.
I was born out there. They were in Hawthorne
Okay.
at the time, but Rodney King riot and all that stuff, we had just escaped that. So, we had moved to Orange County. So, predominantly I was raised in Buena Park, California. I was raised in La Habra.
Okay.
So, shout out to everybody from Buena Park, La Habra. They know who they are. But yeah, so my time in Orange County, that's where the majority of my childhood was.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I hung out around a very diverse crowd, everything from white to black to Hispanic.
Yes.
We even had a sprinkle of Samoas there. You know what I mean? You had the whole clique there. So, it was a good upbringing for the most part. I had a great childhood.
Nice.
And then, that's when I had moved to Lake Elsinore at that point.
Yeah, so tell us about your adolescent years in Lake Elsinore, because that's where we crossed paths
Exactly.
with one another and everything.
Exactly. And I think that's important to let the people know, like,
Yeah.
how we met, right? Which was basically Elsinore High School.
Yes.
It was like such bittersweet. And I think that's the first taste like I had of like mental health, because
Yes.
my whole childhood I grew up in Orange County.
Yep.
So, I was expected to go to high school, the boys, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And just run amok. You know what I mean?
Then you move out here to Lake Elsinore,
And it's
it's a culture shock for you.
It's basically that, right?
Yes,
It's a
yes.
culture shock to where, ninth grade, I'm moving here. I don't know anybody,
Yeah.
right? I don't have any friends, like nothing. It's just like, and if you compare, the IE to Orange County, like Orange County more developed.
Yes, absolutely.
So when you come out here, it's just like different.
Yeah, it's like the country compared to
Right,
Orange County.
exactly. It's
Yo.
like, where did we move to?
Yeah, for real.
But everything was cheaper out here.
Yes.
So my parents had, they bought a home out here.
Okay.
So they were first time home buyers. And so really, that was the main reason why we had moved out. So, the first like couple of weeks, man, I was like in I guess you could call it like a depressed mental state.
Yes, a depression.
You
Yes.
know what I mean? I didn't know what it was at the time, but I knew like I was sad. Those first week or two of going to Elsinore High School, like eating lunch by myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just trying to like whittle through and figure it out. And I remember coming home, I was tearing up. I remember my pops like asked me like, "Yo, what's going on? What's wrong?" I was like, "Oh, I don't have no friends," and
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and him obviously being an adult, he's like, "That's the least of your problem. Like,
Yo.
give it another week, give it another 2 weeks,
Yo.
you're gonna have friends."
Yo.
So within like that first month, man, like I had friends and they started to come along
Yes.
until I encountered the black table.
Oh yeah, the infamous black table, where everyone hated me.
Black table, man. Shout out to the black table.
Yeah,
Elsinore
they
High
couldn't
School.
stand me over there. Tell us about the black table. Tell us about some of
Yeah.
your memories from the infamous black table.
Yeah,
Because Elsinore High
exactly.
School was very
Black table.
segregated until my senior year. That's when the diversity kind of started to happen.
Absolutely.
Because I was the president.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about the black table and how segregated it was when you first got to
Absolutely.
Elsinore High School, your
Yes.
freshman year.
Yes, so I believe that's where we have been.
Yes.
Kind of informally or formally, however you want to put it. What I do remember about you, I'm gonna talk about the black table right now, but what I remember about you is like you were always like out there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You were the president. You were always speaking. You were always communicating. And what I also remember is somehow, someway, we never butted heads.
No.
Like we never were in conflict. We knew each other, but we stayed away from each other
Yeah.
enough to where we didn't have any problems. So to be able to do this interview with you now is just
Yes.
it's special to me. It's
Yeah.
like we've always had either neutral, and now we have a great relationship.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Great kinship. So, the black table, man. The black table. When I embarked upon the black table, I mean, I felt at home because Elson High School, there's a lot of white kids there. We got a lot of Hispanic kids there.
Yes.
And so there's not a lot of us, black students there.
Yeah.
So when we had the chance to actually sit down at the black table, it was that community.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
We had conflict and there was things going on there, but nonetheless, we were still in a comfortable space.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I would say by the mid to end of my freshman year, the black table was it.
Yes.
I had made all my friends. I was getting comfortable to where, man, sophomore year,
It's just like another day.
it was just like another day. I was
Yes.
comfortable now. You know what I mean? So, that was my experience. And honestly, sophomore, junior, senior year it just got better and better for me. So,
Absolutely.
playing soccer for the high school, all that stuff. Some people call it football, But
The rest of the world.
exactly,
Yeah.
the rest of the world calls it football. That's where I grew up on it because, again, I got that Jamaican heritage, so we call it
Yes.
football. But yeah, man, Elsinore High School. That's basically how I was able to transition from Orange County to the IE.
Yeah, and then after graduating from Elsinore High School, you attended Cal State San Marcos, correct?
Yeah, man. Listen,
Tell us about that.
every time I think of Cal State San Marcos,
Yes.
all I could think of is girls and party. That's all I could think of.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yes.
it's I went straight to college. Because again, I was getting comfortable with Elsinore, but I wasn't an Elsinore kid like that. So I was still I gotta get out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
that's the decision. I was always focused, man. Going through school and high school, I was always focused on getting the grades, and I wanted to be a sports agent. So I knew that I had to get to college somewhere. And so, man, I embarked upon Cal State San Marcos, which is it wasn't too far from home, but it was far enough.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So again, with the girls and the party, I moved to the dorms my freshman year.
Yes.
So moving to the dorm my freshman year, you can imagine that there's girls across the hall. You know what I mean? Shout out to Candace and Taylor.
Yeah, shout out to you too. I don't know you, but shout out to you.
No, man, they some beautiful black women, man.
Okay. Yeah.
And we had the opportunity to connect.
Yes.
And it's you can imagine, man, there's no parents around. It's just you. So this is my first experience. I'm outside
Yes.
of the house, and C.J. has to take care of C.J.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so just through that, the party, you have access to alcohol, you have access to other things.
Yes.
Right? You're growing exponentially.
Yes.
So I think for the first time in my life, it was
You're finding yourself.
yeah,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And academics was no longer a priority
Yeah.
because I was learning about all these other things. I mean,
Yes.
you got girls all around you. You know what I mean? You got access to alcohol and there's drugs around.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
academics wasn't a priority. So, now the next step was going to a house. Now, I don't know how we embarked upon this house, but I promise you, this was the perfect setup for a party house. That's how I know
Nice.
there's the Most High up here. Because
Yes.
he put us in the right position to have the craziest parties.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, when we moved into this house, obviously you know what the get down is.
Yes.
You know the priority group. It's girls and party.
Yeah.
So, I remember this one time, this was the first year we were in the house, because we stayed there 2 years.
Yes.
Right? And the 2 years of that being there in the house, it means something. I'm gonna tell you now. The first year, we had a bunch of parties, and we had slowly but surely gained a reputation for being the party
The party house on the block.
right?
Yes.
So this is what you would call First Street, because we lived on First Street.
Okay.
So now anytime someone heard of First Street party house, they knew
It was
us.
automatically CJ's house.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here's the craziest thing was I still had the same roommates that I had predominantly in the freshman year.
Yeah, in the dorms.
So we had gained this chemistry
Okay.
to where like we knew each other.
Yes.
We knew what each other wanted. So it all created like this beautiful like just compilation of just events to where, man, I know we got celebrated my birthday one time in February, and I don't know how, but you know, I had friends from Orange County come through. I had some friends in Elsinore. I don't know where you were at.
I was everywhere during that time, man. I was in so much trouble during those years.
Right.
It's
Right.
not even funny.
Right. So, you know, I had everyone from everywhere come through.
Yes.
And man, I know I got this one friend, we call him Fez, right? I met him, I must have been 5, 6 years old. He's one of them he's like one of them super intelligent dorks, but he's really cultured.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So he's real cool with the people, like everybody loves him. So I know he came through one time and he's like, bro, there's so many people here, Like, yeah, I know. So he's like, I'm gonna count how many people are here.
Yeah.
So that's what tells you like this house, basically our backyard probably had more square footage than the actual house.
Okay.
Right? So, you know, he's doing this thing, he's counting. I got like a group of like Norwegian girls in my room. Like
Yes.
this just goes to tell you like how crazy it is, right? And so, you know, he come back to me, he's like, man, I lost count, but there had to be like over 200 people here.
Damn.
It was like he got to
200
like
people?
210,
Wow.
something, and he couldn't count them all.
Yes.
So I'm like, man, that's crazy. So here we are, we got all these people here, perfect party house. No cops show up,
Yes.
right? And so the party ends like at 3 a.m. And so it was like a perfect party. It's like one of the best like birthday parties I could probably ever have,
Nice.
right? So now being young,
Yes.
you think you could do it again, right? So now St. Patty's comes the next month,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
St. Patty's comes and it's the same get down.
Yes.
Right? We now we're turning up. Now we got the stripper pole up in the
Nice.
house. You know what I
Where's the
mean?
stripper pole located? Was it located in the living room?
It was like smack dead in the middle of the
Oh,
living room.
that's it.
It was like, you know, that happened in, man, it must have been like around 11:15,
Yes.
and you hear the knock. Guess who?
It's the Popo.
It's the police. man.
Johnny Law.
It's the police.
Yeah.
They see me, because we open the door or whatever, right? So they see me, they see the roommate, and they're like, yeah, step out. I was like, all right. Tell us to turn around. We turn around, and boom, they put the cuffs on us. So now they're telling us to sit down, whatever, what's going on, blase.
Yes.
And it's nothing but, you know, just a few friends, a few
Yes.
hundred friends.
Absolutely.
So, you know, with that, they're pretty much like, all right, well, you guys got a noise complaint. And then you have to shut this down, and we're gonna throw you a noise complaint ticket. You know, so a noise complaint ticket, if you don't know, it's like an infraction. It's not a misdemeanor or felony, but nonetheless, you still have to go to court,
Yes.
right? So, boom, we shut the party down, whatever. We still have a couple of friends, close friends there, whatever.
Yeah.
The night ended up good. You know what I mean? We still had a couple girls in there, whatever.
Okay.
But reality hits that next morning, you get the ticket. So fast forward, we go to court, and this is why I was telling you the story about partying. It wasn't, you know, this interview's not about partying, but I'm gonna tell you why I'm telling you this.
Absolutely.
When I step in front of the judge, when I go in the courtroom, and I'm stepping in front of the judge, and you know, I have counsel with me, obviously appointed by the courts.
Public defender.
Right?
Yes.
You know, he's like, yo, you probably got to plead no contest with this. Just pay the fine. You know, it's not a misdemeanor, it's not a felony. Just pay the fine and get through it. But when I look at the judge, man, and he's like, well, what are you gonna do? Like, how do you plead with this? And something hit me to where I was like, yo, this is not a game.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? I don't like the aspect of being in the courtroom. And you know what I'm saying? It's like you're a black man.
Yep.
And you're not supposed to be here. They want you here, you're not supposed to
You're
be
not
here.
supposed to because.
Right? So it's like whatever, you know,
Yes.
we'll pay the fine. And, you know, when I look at the judge, man, and he's like, well, what are you gonna do? Like, how do you plead with this? And something hit me to where I was like, yo, this is not a game. I remember getting out of there, and the fine was it was like $500 by the way, which for a 21-year-old,
That's a lot of money.
$500 is
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so something, I don't know what it was, but something hit me and woke me up to where I was like, yo, like I'm done with this party and stuff.
That was your wake-up call.
That was the wake up call.
Yes.
And some of the roommates, they didn't care. You know, they were still like
In that phase.
in that mode, in that
Yes.
phase. It's like,
Yeah.
yo, I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think I need to start taking this thing serious. Because what had happened through that time frame was I had to change my major. I was a business major. I wanted to be a sports agent.
Yes.
But because I wasn't focused, right, wasn't getting the grades that I needed to. So my guidance counselor is telling me like, hey, you might need to go to, community college and you take some of these classes. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, so I ended up changing my major to political science, which was probably a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
That led me into public policy, but nonetheless, just going back to it, that was like my wake-up call.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
And after you finished at Cal State San Marcos, you finished with a bachelor's, correct?
Yeah, so that's what it was, man.
Bachelor's in political science.
Exactly. So I eventually finished up with a bachelor's in political science. I think that last year of college, man, it was all academics. You know what I mean? It was no partying. I don't think I went to any clubs. It was just like academics.
Yes.
And this is important to say, like, this was this transition into, young C.J. becoming an adult,
Yes.
where I remember picking up two classic books. One was Malcolm X, The Reinvention,
Yes.
and the other one was called The Rich and the Rest of Us. And so, during this whole time frame, like, my consciousness is growing. I'm understanding, like, where Black people stand in America. I'm understanding, like, the economy, the government, right? Going into conspiracies, going into the rabbit hole.
Yes.
And I'm reading all of these books at the same time. Malcolm X, The Invention, where he got in trouble as a young man, right?
Yes.
He was able to turn his life around. So I was in that same mind state, you know what I mean? And so basically reading The Rich and the Rest of Us, you start understanding just how rich the rich really are.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You start realizing just how poor the poor really is. And so that kind of hit me to where I was completely like in a different mental. I wasn't the same C.J. that was partying and wanting to just have fun and chase
You were
women.
basically a more focused CJ.
Completely.
Yes.
I was a C.J. that wanted to learn
Succeed.
more,
Yes.
right? Succeed, obviously, this was something that I wanted to do. It was like, yo, when you graduate, what are you gonna do?
Yes.
And so that last year, man, it was a whole phase in time, but man, I'm grateful for the experience. I don't take back anything, because that's what put me in the place that I needed to be.
Yes.
So chasing the women and putting homework to the side, and,
Yes.
you know what I mean, inviting girls to the house, like all of that was just an experience that I feel like was necessary to get me to where I'm at today.
Absolutely.
So, I had gone back to Riverside,
Okay.
after I graduated from San Marcos, and that's where my independent study came from. So
Okay.
here I am with this bachelor's in political science. I'm like unemployed the first like 6 months, 7 months, right?
Really? Tell us about that also.
Yeah, I mean, Riverside, especially during that time, didn't have a lot of opportunities, right? So I was unemployed for some time. Through that unemployment, though, I decided to make myself useful. And
Yes.
so, what I did was I started like avidly reading. So it's like every month I was reading something new. I was reading about psychology, I was reading about relationships,
Yes.
the economy, government. During this time, I'm watching all kind of YouTube channels, putting me on game about certain things. So at this point, everything was about like growing. Everything was about like learning and getting better.
Yes.
And so as I'm reading all these different things, incarceration, everything about the Black community, that's where I start falling upon public policy. So my independent studies was actually more, in my opinion, was more significant than the studies that I had during my collegiate years.
Yes.
Because I was able to pick up the books that I wanted to pick up, that I wanted to read, that had my interests involved. You know what I'm saying? So, that gap of San Marcos and San Francisco, that was like a 3-year gap. But just learning, understanding public policy. I started my blog like a year after I had graduated from San Marcos.
Yes.
And so that blog consisted of the things that I was reading. So I would read and basically write a review about what I read and thought about solutions, right? How can we help the Black community? And so slowly but surely, now that turns into public policy, right? So I'm starting to learn about public policy, and then I'm starting to think about public policy to where it's like, oh wait, there's actually school programs that are based on public policy and can create solutions, right? I can work on solutions. So I'm focused in the area of public policy before I even get to grad school. So I feel like I already had like a head start in knowledge of like how public policy was and what needed to be done. So now it's just a matter of where do I go? Where do I take this? So, so that's a long answer to your question of now I'm in.
No problem.
Yeah, now I'm in San Francisco.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So now San Francisco, my experience there was so bittersweet, but I think I enjoyed every bit of it.
Okay.
You know, I think at the time I was maybe like 26 years old.
Yes.
When I embarked there, and luckily I had a family friend, and shout out to Vivian, thank you so much. She allowed me to, live in a space and pay cheaper rent than average. It's crazy how all that happened. It was a family friend. We called her up last minute. It was like, I'm trying to get to this school. This was the University of San Francisco.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they had an urban and public affairs program.
Nice.
So that's basically fancy for saying public policy, but that's the program that I entered, and like I said, it was so bittersweet. There's so much I can say about it, just in the sense of like everything was me. Like I've never been so far away from home, so being this far away from home, like everything was on me. I had to pay my rent, I had to pay my bills, like, everything was on me.
Yes.
So what San Francisco did was it put another gear in me that I never thought I had.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like a car. It's like, it has the 4th, 5th gear. It put me in 6th gear.
Okay.
So I was going to school full time, and I had like 3 part-time jobs.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? What part-time jobs were they?
I know I had a research assistant job. I had a program manager job, and then I had a board associate job. So they were all like essential to my professional development.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And just going, through the grad program, obviously helped me learn the whole public policy route.
Yes.
So, it was bittersweet because if you know anything about San Francisco, the culture up there is like ultra liberal.
Yeah.
It's like extra liberal. But you gotta remember through my like independent studies, I never really rocked with either side. So
it's always considered an independent.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so going to a place that is highly democratic, and basically the majority of your cohort, your classmates, are democratic.
Yes.
There's a sense of uncomfortability, not in the sense of Republicans on the right route, but just in the sense of how open-minded are you to the fact of world problems.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And there wasn't a lot of that there. It's like, man, if you even mentioned the name Trump, they would like intellectually lynch you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was no leeway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was the uncomfortable part about it. And I think that at the end of the day, that's why I never fully connected with a lot of the people in the cohort.
Yes.
Because of their way of thinking, which I'm not saying they're wrong, but I just couldn't connect in the same way.
They just wouldn't agree with you on other things. They would agree to disagree, but try to disown you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes it wouldn't be agree to disagree. You know what I mean?
Just
It's
automatically write you off.
that
Don't even give you a listen.
I'm telling. Listen, if you call out the top 2 most democratic places in America, you're gonna get New York City and you're gonna get
San Francisco. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's not a lot of wiggle room. It's like going to Alabama.
Yeah.
Right? There's not a lot of wiggle room to
Ultra
talk.
conservative.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's really not a lot of wiggle room with that. So
Okay.
that was the uncomfortability about it. But at the end of the day, man, my focus was so strong. And I knew I was in an opportunity to be in a position where I could make connections happen.
Yes.
Because San Francisco, in my experience there, going to school was not San Marcos, right? I wasn't interested in chasing women. I wasn't interested in the party. I can't even think if I went to a party up there. You know what I mean?
When you were in San Francisco, it was all business.
All business. That's
Yes.
why I was working so hard,
Nice.
making money and just connecting with the right people. My best friends in San Francisco are now like older.
Yes.
No, I'm getting wisdom rather than hanging with people my age, drinking and smoking and doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? It just was no longer my interest. I was doing my capstone project, my thesis in San Marcos or San Francisco, about Black students and their exposure to history and culturally relevant history. So basically, in layman's terms, it's like how much Black history were Black students getting in school.
Yes.
And so through that experience, through the research, through the interviews, you start to realize it's not much, right? So now I have this idea, I'm looking at my research and I'm like, yo, Black students, they're not receiving the education that they should,
Yes.
right? And so this was around maybe like the end of 2019, I'm starting to think like, there needs to be some kind of platform or
Yes.
something available to give the Black community and Black students access to their history, their culture, their heritage.
Yes.
And so that is basically where all of that starts to formulate, where I'm starting to think, how am I going to do this? How am I going to create this? Meanwhile, I'm still working 3 part-time jobs
Yes.
and trying to finish up my final
Trying to
project,
survive.
right?
Yeah.
And so it was difficult to manifest at the beginning, but the idea was always there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So now we're getting into the beginning of 2020. I really don't need to go into detail about that year. That year was a complete mess for humanity. And
I agree 100%.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That whole thing starts up, and again, remember, this is San Francisco. So if you could remember like the democratic mindset during that year, it was like, you gotta do that, you gotta do that, you gotta do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But me, remember, I'm an independent, so I'm not really in that same mind frame. So now I start to get uncomfortable with the culture there.
Yes.
So as I'm finishing up school, we go to it's basically what you want to call it. It wasn't even hybrid. It was pretty much online.
Okay.
From March of 2020 moving forward, it's all online.
Yes.
So boom, we finish, and by May, graduated with flying colors.
Nice.
Finish the project. So now I'm able to focus on Lyfe Network.
So, Mr. Olton, on your Lyfe Network website, there's a course called your BCP course that's available for people to take.
Yeah.
Elaborate on your BCP course and tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, so, basically what I'm doing right now, the Lyfe Network has a couple of components. And so these components are, academic component, and then you have a wellness center that I'm trying
Yes.
to build on. So
Yes.
to speak on the academic component, right, the BCP, that's Black Community Policy.
Okay.
So we have Black Community Policy, and then we have another ethnic studies course that I'm trying to work on, the melanin history and culture course.
Yes.
Right. So to kind of explain it, right, talking about melanin history and culture first, this is an ethnic studies course. And so basically I wanted an opportunity to create a curriculum where our people were at the forefront. You know, we talk about the successes of the Black community. We talk about the successes of our ancestors.
Yes.
And what we've been through, but more specifically through our perspective, our lens.
Yes.
Right? Rather than getting history books that are administered by a school district that is majority non-Black.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it was important for me to create that course because I feel like it's important for us, again, to control our narrative.
Absolutely.
Right? And control the things that we've been through, because who can discuss it and speak it more than
Yes.
we can?
Yes.
You know, and so now I feel like once we know our history, once we understand our culture, the predicaments that we're in,
Yes.
right? Now you can move into Black community policy. So
Yes.
that's the BCP. Once you have an understanding of who you are, where you came from, where you can go, now let's start creating our own policies. I don't recall there being a lot of, you know, public policy organizations that
Yes.
are ran by Black folks, you know, especially in California. I can't really think of a lot. So
Yes.
I think it's important for us to have ownership of that, and again, control our narrative and control the things that we want to do and the solution that we want to come up with.
Yes.
Because who knows the Black community better than Black people?
Absolutely.
You know, so it goes to a book. A lot of people have read this, The Miseducation of the Negro,
Mm-hmm.
where the author spoke on, you know, personal interests.
Yes.
And it's like, how can you go into a white school with white teachers and expect them to treat Black students,
And
you know,
teach your history the correct way.
right? You know, what I mean?
And even care to teach it the correct way.
Exactly. I mean,
You
that's
know?
the biggest component, is even
Yes.
that care. So it's like, again, why not just control our narrative, control
Yes.
our classrooms, and really just control our textbooks, the things
Yes.
that, you know what I mean, that are essential to us. So that's the academic portion of it. I'm still working on it, and hopefully I can have some trials where people can join in. I actually last year was able to do a town hall
Yes.
where I was able to speak on the reparations movement and discuss the African American reparation movement here in California.
The Reparations Task Force.
Exactly.
The 3721 code.
That was 3121.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it was AB 3121.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, that's what that did. Was it was a bill in California that has set up African American task force
Yes.
to study reparations
Yes.
and give solutions. And so now that we're in the midst of, okay, these solutions have been prompted, well, what can we do? So there was a bunch of different chapters with that, including an education chapter. And so with that education chapter, one of the solutions is like, okay, we'll create an ethnic studies course and put it in the schools.
Yes.
And so boom, that's where my business comes into play. That's what I'm
Nice.
trying to do, put into the schools, but not just the schools, but young adults, you know, adults that are interested in getting that communication and education. And that's where the town hall came in. I was able to bring the community in, and they were able to sit in the session and
Nice.
watch my slide deck, talk about reparations. It was a good time. I mean, it's definitely a time in my life that I'm very proud of. I even got the city of Riverside to sponsor it.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it was a great time, and that's one of my accomplishments. So in terms of the academic portion, that's what I'm working on.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, it is Afrocentric curriculum.
Okay.
So it's not so much like, per se, like questions, but the curriculum is based Afrocentric.
Okay.
So but honestly, at the end of the day, it's like anyone is invited. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I think it would be a disservice to just let, you know, African Americans or Black people in this, and that's why I decided to use the term melanin.
Yes.
Because see, what melanin is it's really, from a chemical, like a chemistry standpoint, right? It's just a black element.
Yes.
So, you know, you don't even need to be dark skinned, right? A lot of people don't realize, like Hispanics, Asians, even like Samoans to an extent, Indians,
Yes.
they have melanin in them.
Yes, they
So
do.
the moment you have black hair and the moment you have brown eyes, right, you have
Yes.
melanin in you.
Yep.
So that's really why I decided to use that term, because I'm trying to make it inclusive. And
Yes,
so it's
absolutely.
like, once we understand that we're closer to each other than not, then that's where we start breaking the cycles.
Yes, and breaking barriers,
Exactly.
breaking color barriers.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's where that whole Afrocentric comes from, because a lot of times, melanin people don't classify themselves as African.
No, they don't.
Yes. But a lot of times you'll see that they classify themselves as Afro.
Yes.
So, you have a lot of people in Mexico,
Like Afro Latinas,
exactly,
stuff like that.
Right?
Yes.
And in Brazil, they have that kind of same mind frame where they say Afro. So it's like, all right, well then let's be inclusive about this. Let's kind of stray away from the word African.
Yes.
And let's use Afro. Because at the end of the day, all our hair is
all the same.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I can't even grow my hair anymore. I'm losing it.
Right. I got you.
Yeah.
But that's what the Afrocentric is all about.
Yes, man. And then also I wanted to ask you in regards to working at the Riverside School District. Tell us about that venture.
Yeah, so working for the Riverside Unified, I don't work directly with them, right?
Okay.
What it is we have a program. It's called the BRAF program.
Yes.
And so basically it's a program for African American families and youth.
Nice.
And so, through that, who funds it is Riverside County.
Yes.
And so Riverside County funds this program. And so that's where my work with the youth, I'm able to lecture and teach youth about, the greatness of Africa and the greatness of African Americans.
Yes.
And the ancestors and just the rich history that we have. And again, talking about colonization from our perspective, rather than leaving it to the no disrespect, but the Caucasian teacher.
Yes.
Or just a non-black teacher. So now we have a program where someone like me, someone that's melanated, someone that's black, is able to lecture black youth.
Yes.
And teach them our perspective of it. So we talk about everything from, ancient Africa to, the colonization.
Yes.
To, rebellious movements, to talking about racism and, war on drugs and things of that nature. So
yes.
It's been an incredible experience right now, working with this black youth. And so that has enhanced my ability and my business to be like, okay, I've learned some things. Now let me take some of these components,
yes,
apply it to my business that I've already been working on,
yes,
previous, and just now, go to the district and go to different, companies and work with them.
Nice.
And try to bring this thing out and branch it out that much further.
Yeah, and also I wanted to mention something to you in regards to your students in Riverside, California. Now, there's been studies out there how there's a lot of African American students, black students, that have undiagnosed learning disabilities.
Yeah.
Do you ever encounter students with learning disabilities such as dyslexia and other things like that?
Yeah, that is an interesting question, because I have. There's a couple of students that I'm working with now that have been, classified as
yes,
having autism or just having a straight out learning disability.
Yes.
You know what I mean? To where it might even be speech impairment to a certain extent. So, I've come across that, and I guess how we're dealing with it is basically, a lot of patience.
Absolutely.
But I think it's important for the county and the district to understand, certain people need training to understand these conditions and how to go about dealing with it.
To let you in on something personal, I was an RSP student until I was in 8th grade, because I read a lot slower than other students. And it's funny how you mentioned the key word patience, because my mom felt that a lot of teachers growing up in Lake Elsinore didn't have a lot of patience with myself. So they just automatically wrote me off and, sent me to the RSP class. And all through my childhood years up until the 8th grade, the RSP teachers would always tell me, he's too smart to be in here. Why is he in this class? He just reads a lot slower than others, but if you give him the patience and the time, he could do the work. I remember that IEP meeting, how the teachers were asking me, do you think you could do the work. If you have to take your time, take your time. Don't let anyone rush you.
Exactly.
Do you have anything that you're currently working on with the Lyfe Network that is upcoming that you want to put out there to the people?
Yeah, definitely, man. You know, right now with the Lyfe Network, number one, I am getting all of the base level things done.
Yes.
So that's everything from like HR to getting paperwork done. Because through my experience now, it's like you see what, you know, a dysfunctional workplace can look like.
Yes.
And so going through that experience, it's like, okay, you know what? Like, I got to make sure that I have my things together. So once you have the base, you know, level down, now you can really go out and start branching out and start doing those projects and
Yes.
things of that nature. So, you know, the Lyfe Network has been really quiet just to make sure that everything on the ground level is fixed up. Everything from code of conducts, right, to making sure employee pay is essential and being paid
Yes.
out. Like everything needs to be crisp as
Yes.
much as possible, right? Not perfect, but definitely as much as possible. So you don't encounter issues, you don't encounter lawsuits,
Yes.
because these things are very real. So with regards to that, you know, right now I have what is called the Black Perspective Project.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about it right now. What I'm doing with the Black Perspective Project is basically I have a bunch of different interviews that I'm doing right now.
Nice.
People all over the world, right? So I got people like from Nigeria and Uganda and India, and, you know, trying to get to South Africa, and trying to get to Mexico. So I can ask them very similar questions about their experience with Black history in their schools and their exposure to it. And so the reason why I'm doing this is if I could somehow compile this data and get the same rhetoric and get the same information,
Yes.
then that goes to show that the Lyfe Network has some kind of significance.
Yes.
Right?
Value.
Because see, the Lyfe Network, of course I have to start in California because that's where I'm at.
Yes.
But my vision has always been international.
Absolutely.
Right? We're in 2024, so we'd be a fool to create a business where we don't use technology.
Yeah.
And use it at its fullest, right? So,
Yes.
you know, my vision is international. My vision is to get, you know, California Black youth to talk to Afro-Mexicans and talk to Jamaicans and talk to West Africans and get them all in one room to learn each other's culture.
Yeah. And understand each other.
Exactly.
Most important of all.
Exactly. And just embedding cultures. So once again, it's like that's how you dismantle racism.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm working on right now is the Black Perspective Project. So I'm looking to put that out summer of 2024.
Okay.
It's going to be a series where every week I'm able to put out a new country. But there's that project. And then I have a really interesting project that I promise you, man, I've been working on so many years.
Yes.
And I'm trying to find the right direction to go about it. So
Okay.
this next project, it's called the 5 components of an intimate relationship.
Oh yeah. Well, you know I'm a married man, so I can help you out with that.
Lucky you.
Yes.
All right. I don't know how you did it, but you did it. So the 5
Yeah.
components of an intimate relationship. How I see it, man, like in our generation, things are, in my opinion, right? Things are completely upside down.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and it's not just specifically in the Black community, but just the whole
everyone.
generation.
Instagram got these people acting crazy.
And that's a huge part of it, right?
Yes.
Is social media
Yo.
kind of doing the influencing and it's doing the telling.
Yo.
Back in the day, it wasn't so much Instagram or whatever. It was your peers around you
Absolutely.
giving you the advice. And that was more essential because these are the people around you that care for you and will put you in a better place.
Yes.
These people on the internet, sometimes that's just sheer entertainment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when
It's
you
pure entertainment.
right. So when
Yes.
you take in that information, it can lead you in a bad place.
Yes.
So I do have this project. It's a slide deck that I created. It's the 5 components of an intimate relationship. I don't want to give it away now.
Yeah.
But
stay tuned.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Definitely stay tuned. What it's gonna be is it's gonna be a discussion base.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm not a relationship guru, right? I'm not gonna pretend to. So it'll be simply a project of like, you know, me inviting you and your wife and other like-minded people
Yes.
to get into a room whether it be a room in person or whether it be online, however
Yes.
we need to do it, to have a discussion about those 5 components and where we should go as a community.
Okay.
So it's really about educating one another and just trying to bring about less divorce and more marriage.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And really overall, just more of an understanding of how to go about dating. So
Yes.
it's like, if you're not interested in marriage or whatever, that's okay. But how do you go about your dating, and how do you,
Yes.
you know what I mean, go about it in a accordingly way. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are really the 2 major projects: the Black Perspective project
Yes.
and the 5 components of an intimate relationship.
Okay, cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for further work with the Lyfe Network. I'm your host, Daniel Carter, and this is the founder of the Lyfe Network, Mr. Carl C.J. Olton Jr.
All right. Peace.
Stay up.